Hey everybody, Dr. Mark Romano here, the chairman of the board of the Chiropractic Trust, and I am super excited for this interview. This man needs no introduction, perhaps the greatest badass in chiropractic that has ever lived, an absolute genius. He is my mentor, one of the few people that I have as a mentor, and he's mentored countless chiropractors through his illustrious career. His career has involved graduating from Columbia School of Chiropractic in New York, studying under Reggie Gold, the same class as Joe Strauss in his graduating class. He's been in private practice in Paramus, New Jersey, longer than any chiropractor that's been practicing on the planet today. We're going to be discussing maybe a little bit of history and a little bit of the future of where Dr. Joe Donofrio sees our profession going. So I am super excited. And Joe, thank you for joining me tonight.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. So how long have you been in practice for now?
Coming up on 55 years.
55 years. How long have you had a home office?
Well, that whole period.
The whole time. Amazing. And 3 boys, and they're all chiropractors, right?
Yes, they are.
So what year did you start practicing in?
1967. Yes, I said 19.
So what was the environment of chiropractic like then?
Well, we had about 10 or 12 years before that in New Jersey. We had just gotten licensure, and we were governed by a medical board. There was no chiropractic board, and thank God there was no insurance.
And why do you say that?
Well, my contention is that the whole practice of writing insurance hands over to the insurance company the ability to dictate what chiropractic is, instead of letting it be with the chiropractor.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. What was
going to be whatever the insurance company tells you to be if you want to get paid, and everybody wants to get paid because you got to pay off the student loans.
right? Yeah, we need to talk about that
I
too.
want to get paid too, but when I get paid, I get paid for my patients.
Yes.
So it's a 2-person relationship, the patient and the doctor. But when you do insurance, it's 3 people.
Yes. And, you know, there's a lot of chiropractors who believe you can't make it without insurance. What's your average PVA for your patients?
PVA?
Yes, patient visit average. How long does a person who starts with you come in on average?
About 1,200 visits.
It would be easier to calculate in years.
The whole key is not getting new patients. The whole key is keeping patients.
Yes.
And the only way to do that is through educating them and office procedures that are conducive to them staying. If you really want to come in 3 times a week or once a week or twice a week or 10 times a week, whatever it is, you have to make it convenient for them to come in. You can't have 2 hours of office hours each day and say, well, I'd say either make it or the hell with you.
Very conducive to the rhythm and tempo of the community you live in, right? Yeah.
Your fees have to be conducive to their being able to come. You say, I want to run a family practice. Well, you have to have fees that are realistic for a family. You can't have a family practice, 5 people in a family coming in and have them all paying $100 a visit. It's just not going to work.
So did you come out of school with this model? Did you come out of school with this objective?
Yes. Reggie was a close friend, and he practiced not far from where I live right now. We spent a lot of time at his house listening to him lecture and talk. And he practiced a system called GPC, box on the wall. And I loved it. My wife loved it. My wife was really the one who encouraged me to practice with a box on the wall. Box on the wall is not no fee. Box on the wall is allowing patients to pay whatever fees within their means.
Your wife has been amazing for you and for chiropractic over the years, Joe.
God bless her.
Yes, good woman.
Marriage
Good,
may be the most important decision you ever make.
absolutely, absolutely
Whether you're a man or a woman.
correct. I totally agree with that. So, were you involved with and speaking at DE during this time as well?
Well, I went to DE about, I think 17 or 18 times. In those days, they used to have 3 or 4 a year. And once you got caught up in it, DE was a great deal more than just a practice management program. It was a fraternity. And you went to your fraternity meetings 3, 4 times a year, held in Atlanta. I liked Sid a lot. He was philosophically inaccurate, but he had a lot of practical understanding about how to deal with humanity, how to sell chiropractic, how to get people under care and keep them under care. So he was an interesting guy, quite a character. And Reggie was also a part of that program at the time. So that was a bonus. I got to hear Reggie when I went. And you never hear enough of Reggie.
Yeah, even now, you and Reggie, you, Reggie, Joe Strauss, Tom Gregory, some of my biggest mentors in creating what I am today. Now,
we're very proud of you.
Do what?
We're all very proud of you.
Well, I appreciate that, Joe. That's very kind. That's very kind, and more than I can ask for. Point, Reggie had a falling out with Sid?
No, not a falling out. It's every Saturday at the end of the seminar, we would have the parade of stars. And Sid would go through the audience and tap you on the shoulder and say, how about you get up and say a few words about how good DE's been to you? And every time he did it to me, I would say, no, I really can't do that because my success didn't come from DE, it came from Reggie Gold. And that would really get him angry. They were not close friends, even though they went to school together.
Oh, so they were in the same class together?
Yes, they were, along with Tom Gilardi.
Really? That's interesting.
Imagine that, all 3 of them at Palmer at the same time.
And imagine you and Joe Strauss in Reggie's first class at the same time.
Interesting. Who knew?
Outliers. And so what eventually happened that led to you and Reggie not participating in the DE seminars anymore?
Well, Reggie got up on the podium one day and began bad-mouthing the fact that in the next room, which was the sale room, where Sid would sell all of his pamphlets and booklets and things like that, they were selling the little black bags with the blood pressure cuffs in them and a stethoscope and the neurologic hammer. And Sid liked to play the doctor role.
Yeah.
Reggie didn't like playing the doctor role. He wanted to look like anything but a doctor. And he badmouthed the little black bag and the stuff they were selling in the next door room. Well, Sid went ballistic about it and invited Reggie up to his room, where he summarily fired him and told him never to come back. And that was the last meeting that Reggie was at. When Reggie stopped going, there was a little less reason for me to go. I wasn't as strongly a part of the fraternity as some of the others. So I stopped going. And that made me a few new enemies. But that was okay. It was doing the right thing. As long as you're doing the right thing, it doesn't matter who likes you or doesn't like you.
Yes. Yeah, you taught me that a long time ago.
That was
And,
it. Dee went its way and I went my way and Reggie went his way.
and soon after was Sherman founded by basically,
Right around the same time,
yeah,
Tom Gilardi founded Sherman. And of course, having gone to school with Reggie and knowing Reggie's flamboyant persona, Tom decided that if he could get Reggie to come down to South Carolina and go out and do fundraising and student recruitment, that would be a good thing. It turns out Tom was damn right. It was a good thing.
was,
And Reggie did a great deal to build the school and bring money into the school and just got Sherman College rolling. Tom, of course, did all the technical work
yes,
because Tom is really good at technical work.
right,
And he, of course, was the president of the college.
yes.
But Reggie had a secondary position, but spent a lot of time on the road, and Reggie liked to be on the road. And Reggie referred a lot of students in there, like dozens at a time from every trip. And a lot of people would bring their money to Sherman College because Reggie recommended it. So it turned out that they worked together very well. Again, my understanding was that they weren't good friends. I don't know why this happens in chiropractic, but people have difficulty being friendly with somebody who has a slight disagreement in principle over something.
Yes.
Seems like overkill.
Was that disagreement because Tom favored more upper cervical and Reggie was more of a post spine?
Yeah, that had something to do with it. Sherman began clearly as an upper cervical school.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, students, I would refer students there and they'd come back home for Christmas vacation, come in and visit me and tell me I was a mexer.
Because you went below C2.
I was the guy who sent them off to college and I was a mexer because I adjusted below Atlas.
Right.
That doesn't make too many friends when that starts happening.
No,
Even to a lot of supporters.
and what year did you become a member of the board of trust for Sherman College?
I don't remember what year it was, but I was on the board for 20-some years, chairman of the board for, I believe, 16 or 17.
Yes.
It really was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed working with Tom. He's a wonderful guy to work with. And together, we did some good things for the college that are still there today.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And during this time, Reggie also started the IFCO, correct? When Sherman first opened his doors?
Yeah, Reggie decided that the profession needed institutionalization. That doesn't mean we were crazy. It just meant that we needed the institutions of a profession. We had
Yes.
a college. We needed an accrediting agency. And so SCASA was formed. And we needed a national trade association and state trade associations. That was about the time that the Garden State was formed and about the time that IFCO was formed. because nobody else wanted the job, I got the job of being chairman of the board of FSCO for about 22 years. And we did some good things there too.
Yes. So you've obviously been the leader of every straight chiropractic organization in existence.
At one time or another, until I created enough enemies that they threw me out.
Yeah. Do I?
That's the way it works.
That's the way it works. And all this time, you're also in private practice, having one of the largest practices on the planet, correct?
Yeah, we spent about 20 years or so seeing 12 to 1,500 visits a week.
Amazing. By yourself?
By myself, no associates, in a home office, 1,000 square foot office. There's usually a line out the door, down the driveway, out into the street, which is one of the best practice builders I've ever had.
Yes.
Far better than advertising and doing health fairs. It really works well when people pass your office and they say, "Oh," I would meet people around town and say, "Who are you?" I'm Dr. Donofrio. I'm a chiropractor over on Bel Ave. And they would point and say, "You're the guy.
You're the guy.
You're the guy with that big long line out there every night." I said, "Yeah, I guess I am." But it was good for the profession and it was good for me.
Yes.
I mean, what better referrals are there than people knocking on your door trying to get in?
None. None. Is it true that the city had a high officer to direct traffic during your office hours?
Yeah, we had a little problem with the police. That's why I built a second home office, and I put a nice big parking lot on it. But there, in my first office, I was doing only on-street parking, and my neighbors just weren't happy. But there'd be maybe 25, 30 cars out there on the street. And of course, they'd always park very sloppy and they'd block people's driveways. And my neighbors would call the cops and the cops would come down and they'd direct traffic for a while. And it was zoo time. So after 4 or 5 years in that office, it was just time to get out. And we built a nice big, again, home office. I love a home office.
Yes.
I know it's not popular all over the country, but up here in the Northeast it is, and I just think it's great.
Yeah. And what was your highest volume day, one single day?
Oh yes, that's the day I almost died. I believe, I don't remember it for absolute sure, but I want to say 522, something like that.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it was. I just walked into the house, collapsed into my recliner, and I stayed there until morning. My wife didn't even bother trying to wake me up. And I just realized on that day that there had to be another way to bring chiropractic to the world. I wasn't going to do it all by myself. That's when I started getting interested in FSCO, Garden State Chiropractic Society in New Jersey, Sherman College, and all the other things that had to be done. Because what we wanted to do was influence a group of people to practice in this way. That would bring it to more and more people. The more people you brought it to, the more chiropractors you would need. And little by little, we would carve out a niche within the chiropractic profession. What we talk about in straight chiropractic is kind of a subspecialty of a specialty.
Explain that.
Well, we're all chiropractors. We all learn the same thing in school. Some people want to dedicate themselves to doing physicals for CDL, commercial driver's license. Other people want to do acupuncture. And what we wanted to do was check spines, find vertebral subluxations, and correct them so that the world could be subluxation free.
Mm-hmm.
Based on the premise that when the world was subluxation free, it would be a better, healthier world.
Absolutely.
Healthier, not less symptomatic. Healthier, as in emotionally, mentally, physically. People would live longer and live better, improve the quality and the quantity of life. That's what chiropractic is really all about. Why in the world anybody wants to waste their time treating backaches is beyond me.
You say now, what do you think as far as today, a chiropractor focused exclusively on what you're talking about, the correction of vertebral subluxations? What kind of volume does a chiropractor need to see to truly make a difference in their community?
I think somewhere around 400 or 500 a week. That's a very busy practice. You're limited. Your numbers are limited by whatever technique you choose.
Of course.
Some techniques are more time consuming than others. Now, for me, I use motion palpation, some occasional leg checks, and diversified full spine care. I understand people want to do upper cervical or want to do Grostic or Gonstead, and that's fine. But understand that whatever technique you choose is going to limit your volume.
Of course, yes.
So I try and find a happy medium that allows you to have a good volume and do a good job correcting subluxations. Because if you're not correcting your subluxations, you're just cheating them. You're robbing them.
Yes. Correct. Yeah, and I think this is a concept provided with the chiropractors. You know, if it takes 5 minutes to do a full analysis and check a spine and post analysis, if it takes 5 minutes to do that, your max capacity is 12 people per hour. And if you're working 10 hours a day, it's 120 a day.
Right. Unless you're going to grow 2 new arms.
Yes. And just like you said, I'm sure when you see, the volume that you see, you have peak hours. So it's not like you have every hour of the day.
Right. Also, it's a family practice. So you got 5 or 6 people coming into the adjusting room at a time.
Yes.
And I've seen the high-lows, but the high-low remains down and everybody just kind of hops on and hops off.
Right.
They only use the high-low when you have some old, frail person who has difficulty getting up, and it gets them up faster.
Right. Yeah, and that makes sense. And it does. I don't have a high-low. I use Omni tables because I'm consuming. So with my older people, I actually help them up. But you're right, it is a bit more time consuming for that. Now, were we, as a profession, Joe, were we reaching more of our back in that day, or are we seeing more now, 50 years later in 2022?
No, getting back to what we started with, because of the advent of health insurance, we are seeing far less people than we used to see. Nowadays, if you hear of a practice where somebody's seeing 100 patients in a day, you say, wow, he's really busy. 100 patients a week, 100 patient visits a week is considered a busy week. at that rate, we're never going to reach the world. We're just not.
In fact, when I've done the numbers, Joe, because, you know, the thing that, one of the many things I inherited from you was the vision. 7.8 billion people seeing their chiropractor every week, exclusively to be checked for vertebral subluxations.
Right.
If we took every chiropractor on the planet right now, approximately 65,000 chiropractors practicing worldwide, there may be more than that, but estimated that's what's practicing. If every chiropractor moved through the United States, with over 300 million people living here, that means the average office would be seeing over 3,000 people, not visits, people a week. There is literally not enough chiropractors.
Not going to happen.
Right? So, as we close this interview, you've seen, you've lived, I mean, chiropractic on a level that nobody has. Nobody has seen your volume consistently for as long as you have done it. Nobody has had your members be as consistent as your members are with your PVA in an uncalculatable number. There is so much experience that you have that will never be seen again, Joe, unless something changes. Where do you see this profession heading in the future? You've been involved in academia, you've been involved in practice, you've been in the field, you went to school in New York, which, by the way, now is New York Chiropractic, taught by some of the greatest minds ever in this profession. Where do you see us going?
Something's got to happen to get rid of student loans. Student loans are really the cause of the problem now. It started out, it was insurance. But now the student loans are so ridiculous, and people are coming out of chiropractic college owing 150,000, 200,000, and more.
Yes.
Now that makes them beholden to the insurance company when they get into practice. So for their whole lives, they're working for the company. The company is the federal government paying off the student loan and the insurance companies. As long as that's the case, they can't be free to be chiropractors. What they are is medipractors. They practice a form of chiropractic medicine, treat symptoms, because, hey, if you don't put down a diagnosis and symptoms, you're not getting paid from the insurance company. And if you don't get paid from the insurance company, you don't pay off your student loans. And if you don't pay off your student loans, you can never get a mortgage to buy a house or a loan to buy a car, because your credit rating is going to be horrible. So something's got to break this terrible chain that we're in. All of this happened after the Wilkes case that was brought by ICA largely in Chicago. It was in Chicago.
Okay.
And I think what medicine did is they got their heads together and said, okay, if we can't beat them legally, let's let them get insurance coverage. Let's let them qualify for insurance to go to college. It screwed us. I'm sure it'll screw them too. And I think that's what happened. I think it's all part of a great plan to get rid of chiropractic.
And how do you get rid of that?
You get some people with a vision to do something better, to not just let it go. There's some movement in the federal government right now to get rid of student loans. That is, well, not get rid of them exactly, but stop giving them out and pay them off.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll go the right way. Maybe that'll get enough votes in the Senate. If it does, that would be a big step. Then kids would come out, they'd be able to practice. They wouldn't have to use health insurance.
How would the colleges survive without? How would the colleges survive without guaranteed student loans?
Let me tell you a little secret. Colleges set their rates based on what student loans pay.
Okay.
Student loans are self-defeating. Every year, the federal government would come out with guidelines as to how much they're willing to pay. And then miraculously, about 3 to 6 months later, every college comes out with how much you're going to pay. And so it's the same number. If they'll lend you $50,000 to go to school, $50,000 a semester or a year,
Yes.
then the college is going to charge $49,900. They'll leave you $20 so you can buy a new watch.
Yeah. So, yeah, this has always been a perplexing problem because students are not obligated to take student. There was a time, people worked through school.
Yes, I did.
Yes. So, do you feel the biggest reason why chiropractors are not in the non-therapeutic model, a very logically sound model, the safest way to practice chiropractic? Do you feel the vast majority of chiropractors are not in that model because either they're uncertain they can make the money to pay off their loans? Do you think that's the reason?
I think so.
Interesting. So obviously it would behoove the chiropractic profession to make enormous amounts of money practicing congruently with honesty and integrity, as you did, Joe. I mean, the volume of folks that you were seeing, and
Not only me, there's an awful lot of others. I could probably name them all, but I'd forget some of them. Who paid off student loans early on cash basis type practice.
correct.
Some form of that.
Right.
Not everybody's capable of doing GPC, I understand that. But some kind of cash basis practice where the patient pays. What a novel idea. You go for care and you pay for it.
Exactly.
Wow. Who would have ever thought about that? When I was a kid, my mother used to take me to the family doctor when I had a cold. The family doctor was the chief thoracic surgeon of a huge hospital here in northern New Jersey. Well known, well respected. And when we were done with the visit, my mother would say, "What do I owe you, doctor?" And he would say, $1. And then my aunt would come in. My aunt was a very wealthy woman whose husband made hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. We're talking back in the 1930s and 40s. So they were very wealthy people. And she would have her problem diagnosed, and the doctor would give her a box of pills for whatever he diagnosed. And she would say, "What do I owe you, doctor?" And he would say, $5. And she would get angry at him and say, "Why is it I have to pay you 5 times what my sister paid you?" And he would simply look at her and say, "That's why I can afford to take care of your sister."
That's awesome. And did she get it? Did your aunt get it after that? Did she understand?
Yeah, yeah, ultimately. She wasn't happy. But then she is never happy.
Well, if that's the case, then yeah, that's just par for the course, right?
One of those people.
Yeah. Yeah. Joe, what final words can you leave us? This is going to, go worldwide. What final words of advice or thoughts can you leave the chiropractic profession with tonight?
In chiropractic, find the truth. Find out what chiropractic is really all about from the people who discovered it and created it. Find the truth and hold to it without exception, without surrender.
Powerful.
Make that be your life's work, and you'll change the world that you live in. Simple.
And you have been the example of that, and this has been a beautiful life's work. How often are you working now?
I work 2 days a week.
That's great. What's your longest practice member? How long have they been with you?
Well, like I said, I've been in practice 55 years. I've got many, I would say many, several, that have been coming for 40 and 45 years. Problem is that no matter how good I take care of them, they still die.
Yes. Yes.
I don't understand it.
Nobody gets out of here alive, brother. Joe, thank you for your time. Thank you for everything you've done in chiropractic.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you for what you've done for me, brother.
Anytime.
Okay, folks, Dr. Joe Donofrio,
Anybody wants to talk to me, give me a call. My phone number in my office is 201-967-0020. Thank you.
very gracious, Joe. Thank you. All right. Let's see.